Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, thank you so much for all the support and helping me build this channel up. Today, I got a really fun video where I'm trying out a new mouse from Akko. So thank you again, Akko, for sending me out the Pulse01. Let's go straight into the unboxing, and please make sure to like and subscribe.
Now, starting off with unboxing the Akko Pulse01. Thank you again, Akko, for sending me this out. I was really interested in checking out their new mouse. I love Akko keyboards, as well as like their switches and all they're doing. So it was really interesting to see actually and try out a new mouse from them. And especially because I'm actually currently looking for a new mouse. So really perfect timing. Now, opening up the box design looks really cool. To be honest though, the box design and the mouse design do not match. I feel like they really do not, but you get a dongle here. So that's supposed to be the AK receiver, and you also get like a USB extension because it's actually kind of like a USB like USB actually. So the dongle is like a USB, so that's how it is done. And then you get a braided cable, which is nice. Now that's all you're getting in there, as well as the extra stickers, as you guys saw, for the feet. Really nice to see that they're providing a lot of stuff in the box. And of course, now we're gonna have to remove the plastic pieces, and then we're gonna of course go into a sound test and more. So getting off all the pieces here, we can now take a look more into the mouse itself. So this thing does have a USB dongle as well. So you actually get two. You get a receiver for 8K, and you get another USB dongle. I thought those parts were actually going to come out, but they don't. It's Bluetooth, wired, and 2.4, which is the USB dongle. And of course, you get a really nice mouse here. So we're going to weigh this mouse before we go into the sound test. So it's 78 grams, which is actually not on the light side. I actually thought the mouse would be lighter, but in my hands, it did feel a bit heavy, especially compared to my other ones. Now let's hear the sound test.
Now, we've done the unboxing of the Pulse01. So if you guys can take a look right here, this is the Pulse01 from Akko. It has a purple accent to it, which not everyone's gonna like. I think if this had a black accent available, it would have been really, really clean and light, like nice. It has this kind of retro theme to it though. So one of the things that I felt about this mouse was that it did feel retro, right? So when I'm looking at it, the color wise, for a white, it's not like a pure white. It actually is more of a creamy white. Now that we've actually seen it as well, and you guys heard the sound test that I did for this mouse, I actually do like the clicks. It does sound really nice. It's not like super loud, and it has a little bit of like this nice click to it, which is really smooth. We're gonna go straight into taking a look at the page, as well as taking a look at the software, and then we'll do some gameplay footage, and then we'll go back to this review.
So going on to Akko's website to take a look a little bit deeper into the Pulse01. So this mouse is 80 USD, right? $79.99. Comes with the PAW 3950 sensor, which is a great sensor, right? It is one of the newer mouse sensors, which is nice to see. It's 8K, Bluetooth 2.4. You get from DPI of 400 to 30,000. Really nice to see. You get a very wide variety of DPI into a high DPI as well. The mouse itself has a really nice, well-made design, honestly. I do love the design. It is like a retro design, as I was mentioning. It's really interesting to see how they did it. The color scheme of it too, the purple, I guess, because it is like Akko, right? It's supposed to be matching their specific brand, but it is pretty interesting. It does come with the Kali switches for the clickers, which is really nice. As I was mentioning, the mouse clicks do feel really great and smooth. Now, they do have the drivers right there available for you on their site for the mouse, so you can click on that and download it. This is what the app looks like. So it's called the Akko Gaming software, and this software is actually quite simple looking. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more because, like, for example, when I tried the Rapu, there was a lot more availability, a lot more customizations available. This is actually more of a very, very simple software. you do get the section where you can change the polling rate, right, from 125 all the way to 8K, and you can change the lighting color. So there is a little bit of lighting available on the mouse. It's not a lot, like say some other gaming mouse. This one only has a very little bit of light that comes through the where the DPI is. There's that light thing, and where the clickers are. So keep that in mind. The lighting for this is very, very light and not heavy. You're not getting a ton of lighting from your mouse, but you do get your basic things that you need. Pretty much everything you need for sure is available on the software, right? So everything you for sure need is available. You can change the polling rate, you can change the DPI, you can turn on like high performance mode. You can also change like the angle snapping, right? Which allows you to do a little bit more of a straight line, and you get motion sync and much more. So this is nice to see, and you also get macros. Not a ton, but you still get the basics that you need for a mouse setting and to change the mouse settings for yourself. To be fair, once you set it up, I feel like most people don't really use it much. But that's the battery usage, by the way, from full to that after a full week. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of in-game footage. So I did play games with this, but let me give you guys a little bit of the reasoning of like why I'm doing Apex and what I like to test. So this is my scroll wheel test, and when I use scroll wheel in Apex Legends, I need to have one that really works well. And the reason being is like tap strafing, and there's specific things like I want to make sure that can be done well with this with a scroll wheel. And depending on the type of scroll wheel you have, as you can see here, like if it's really smooth and easy to use, you can do things like a really nice tap strafe and easy like, you know, rope climbing tech, different movements. It's nice to have that mouse wheel that does work really well. The mouse that I normally use, which is the VGN, the scroll wheel is a little bit stiff, and I don't personally like it for when I'm doing it, like playing games like Apex Legends, because the scroll wheel is a bit stiff. And as you can see here as well, it's like recoil control. So that's no recoil control at all, where I'm just shooting. But now I'm controlling the recoil with the mouse itself. It's actually not too hard. The control, but to be fair, Apex Legends recoil control is very, very minimal. You don't actually have to do a lot, say, compared to like other games like Valorant. So I will be actually showing you guys a little bit later my recoil control using this mouse in Valorant. But for pure purposes of like using this mouse in Apex, it was completely fine. Though I did have a little bit of difficulties in terms of like tracking and making sure my mouse is on the exact point that I wanted it to be. So as you can see here, like when I'm trying to shoot and practice, you know, going back and forth between targets, and specifically this is the way I like to practice flicking, is my aim is kind of off. And I think specifically it's due to the fact that the mouse is a little bit heavy, and I'm not really used to that. Even though I did use a 703 before I went to a VGN, which was heavier than this Akko, right? So the G703 is actually a bit heavier. And this one still, I wasn't getting used to the exact movement of it. The thing is, I like using my wireless at 1600 DPI, which, by the way, if you do use it at a higher DPI, you will use a lot more battery. But I remember, you know, watching like Linus Tech Tips, and they're doing the DPI testing and, you know, the latency, and having it at 1600 was supposed to be like the right amount in terms of latency wise. So that's why I do use 1600, and then I like using a little bit more of a high sensitivity in game. And yeah, it's just a little bit difficult. Like I'm finding that it was a little bit difficult to keep my aim perfect. So another thing I like to test with mice when doing a review is aim labs, right? So using it in aim labs, testing to see how well can I do it. So at first it seemed like I'm doing okay, but then as you see, the longer it goes, my aim is off, right? And it's off by a very slight amount. It's like I'm not purposely trying to be off with it, but I can feel myself being slightly off each time and having to try to make micro adjustments, sorry, to be on target. And due to that, it's a bit hard, right? Like I want my aim to be really good and right on the spot, but one thing I've been noticing is, I think due to specifically the weight itself and the DPI and the sensitivity I'm using, it was definitely more difficult to do. I don't try to like switch up the sensitivity in game to match like the mouse that I'm using, because I want to, of course, try to see how is it compared to like what I'm normally used to, right? And I do, after a while, of course, like I'll have to make that adjustments if I need to. But as you can see here, like the score wise, it's nowhere near my high score, and the high score is going to be using my VGN. Now, I'm going to be, of course, testing next is actual flicks. So the next test should be the it's like how should I say it? It's flick testing. So like spider shot, it allows you to have a target that comes in the middle and then it goes to the sides. This is pretty much making sure my aim can go right to where I need it to be. But as you could actually see here in the footage here, my aim keeps being slightly off for the small targets. And this is not a good thing, because if you're a gamer that plays different FPS games, like for example, CSGO, like Counter-Strike, or you play Valorant, your aim needs to be quite like right on, because if you don't and you miss, pretty much you're gonna die. And most people nowadays, I feel like there's a lot of people on a high skill level now in most video games. Like when I play Valorant and I try to practice Valorant sometimes to see if I can, provide better reviews. The unfortunate thing is I suck so much that it's hard. It's hard to even get the practice in to do it because everyone is so good. Now, I can see that my accuracy is also off. It's at 83%, which it shouldn't be. My accuracy usually goes to like past the 85, 86, maybe towards the 90% range. And this time it was not so great. So it is due to the weight. And I know it is due to the weight itself, because I can feel myself tensing up a lot more, trying to be on target and move the mouse itself. So keep that in mind. Really, it is heavier than most of the newer gaming mouse, I feel, but everyone has a preference, right? Some people don't like a super light mouse. I personally just am a person that likes lighter mice. So this is something to keep in mind. I even had a difficult time tracking. I felt that every time I had to make a movement and like make the micro adjustments to track a target, it was a little bit difficult. I could feel myself being like slightly pulled off center, and then obviously I'm not making a good job at being accurate at this, which is kind of surprising, to be honest with you, because like in terms of the accuracy itself, like at 30%, it's actually quite similar to what my other mice, especially when I did previous reviews with like the Rapu and the Mtros. But still, this mice, because the Akko isn't super slippery, it is a little bit more difficult, and it is more of like a braking mouse. I would say to the stickers that they're using on the bottom, it is more good for braking than it is just pure gliding. Now, this is my testing in actual Valorant of trying to do a recoil control like practice. As you can see here, it's really difficult. I'm having a very difficult time because I'm not used to the actual recoil in this game. So I'm having to actually do micro adjustments watching the target itself and seeing where the aim's landing. So every time it goes off, I'm trying to make that adjustment. And the recoil control definitely is difficult here. I'm like trying to make sure I can get everything as centered as possible. In a game like this, your aim and recoil control should be as centered into the middle as possible. It should not be going out of that range where like how far I am. This is actually really bad recoil control. And to be fair, this is not just the fault of the mouse. This is the fault of just me not being good at recoil control of this game. All right, see here, now it's a little bit more centered. This is kind of closer to what you'd want it to be. You do not want it to go off the center line. Now, I felt with both guns, with the most the most popular ones, which is the Phantom and the Vandal, my recoil control obviously is not great. And then the next thing I want to test out in this game will be how is it like actually flicking, right? So one thing was I was going to try to test flicking on targets, because there's that practice you have here in Valorant where you can just flick around, have the enemies moving, see how your aim is. And as you can see here, my aim is incredibly bad. I'm trying to make that micro adjustments. It's a little bit tough to make small micro adjustments with this mouse due to the weight for myself. But when it comes to like bigger movements, it's much easier. It's just that small micro adjustment that's a bit difficult to get exact. So now going into reviewing this mouse compared to say the other mice that I have. So this is the Dragonfly VGN Max. I have the Logitech G703 that I tried. I've also tried the Pulse01. This is the Pulse01. Sorry that I said that. The Pulsar mouse, and then I have a Pulse01. I've tried the Mtros and I tried Rapu. Now the Logitech here is without the weight, and it's still heavier. So the Logitech, even without the weight, is still heavier than the Pulse01. So this is me just testing out the gliding. How good is the gliding? And as you can see, the VGN is not a great gliding mouse. The Logitech is actually much better for gliding than the VGN at a heavier weight, which is quite surprising to see. But as you can see there, the Logitech G73, it is a great mouse, honestly. And then you have the Akko Pulse01, which again, it's not meant for a lot of gliding. If you change the feed out though, they have different ones that you can actually make it glide a lot more, but the one that comes with its stock is not really meant for gliding. Now, the weight wise, if you do remove the USB dongle, it will help a little bit, but it will be slightly off balance. So you can feel it once you pick it up. And the thing is, like, when you pick it up, the weight is more front heavy. That's one thing I did feel. It is going to be a little bit more front heavy compared to, say, when you have the USB dongle in. Even though it's like the USB dongle doesn't really weigh anything, it's like nothing almost. It's still there. Now, in terms of, as I was saying, the scroll wheel does feel really great. I really love the scroll wheel on this mouse, as well as the clicks. It felt really satisfying. One thing to note, as well as the DPI button, is actually on the top, and maybe that's something that you might not like, depends on the person, right? I do really enjoy this mouse though, in terms of the comfortability. In my hands, it felt incredibly comfortable, and I really was quite enjoying just the use of it in my hand. But one thing I did notice though is I had to keep doing lifting it off the mouse pad quite often, because it was a bit on the bigger side. Instead of making more arm movements, it was definitely more lifting up. Now, this is the AK receiver, so it is like a USB stick. It's quite small. It's not big at all, which is nice. I think a lot more companies are getting better with their USB dongle for their AK. But the thing is, like, you still need to connect it to a cable and have the extension available. So keep that in mind, that is something that you have to do. But you do get two different dongles for this mouse. One thing I personally think is, like, as you can see here with the G73, my holding of the mouse is a little bit different. I don't use a palm or claw. It's more of a hybrid grip. And the G73 is a little bit on the large side. I do have smaller hands, so that's something to note. I like the VGM because it was a small mouse, and it fits right in my hand perfectly for me to get that more of a hybrid grip. The Pulse01 is definitely on the bigger side compared to the VGN. If you have really large hands, though, you'll feel that the Pulse01 is small. If you have a lot smaller hands, you'll find the Pulse01 to be like, if you have very, very small hands, you'll feel that it's a bit on the, like, slightly bigger side than the smaller mice that are available, but it still feels really nice in general. I felt that it still felt comfortable, right? That's one of the things. So when I used the Rapu, the thing I felt was the mouse was too big. And to be fair, they are marketing in there. I made it for people with large hands. I have a smaller hand, which is why I felt it was uncomfortable. The Akko Pulse01 does feel comfortable, but the weight is just the thing. So I personally am a person that likes to play games without lifting mice a lot, but the Pulse01, I found myself lifting off the mouse pad quite often just to make those adjustments and to make the movement. This is something that some people might enjoy and some people are used to doing, and some people might not like doing. I'm a person that doesn't really want to have to lift the mouse up too much and, save that wrist movement, but just that's something for me personally. I do felt though that, like, it was a really well done mouse. I didn't have any issues with the sensors except for Apex. So one of my viewers did mention before that the AK can affect Apex Legends, and it did. I didn't really experience that with the M-Chos, but with the Akko, I did notice that with Apex Legends, there was some glitch going on with the AK, and I had to run it on 4K. So anybody that plays Apex Legends, keep that in mind. If you're running AK and you find that your mouse is acting weird, you're going to have to put it in 4K. Which 4K is fine. Honestly, AK is not a huge deal. You don't need to do 4K. You don't need to do 8K. You can do 4K. I use 4K mouse. It's perfectly fine. To be fair, Logitech doesn't really tell you exactly their polling rate, but their mice works incredibly well. It's all about that latency, honestly, at the end of the day. Now, I think out of all the mouses I've tried so far, the Pulse01 has been a great in-between. And, like, I'm a person that really loved my VGN for the weight of the mouse and, of course, the price, right? Because it's like the VGN was like around 50 USD. The Pulse01 for about like $10-$20 more than the VGN, I think it's worth it, right? The 703 for me was much more expensive, over $100. I really think that if you're looking for a good 8K mouse that's not over $100, take a look at this mouse, especially if you want one that has some weight to it.
So we've seen the software, we've seen the gameplay footage. Now my thoughts on this. So it is a bit heavier. If you are someone that likes a heavier mouse, definitely take a look at this. It's not like super heavy, right? But it is on the heavier side. Where I can compare this in terms of weight wise is the weight is close to my MX Master, but it's not as heavy as my MX Master, right? My MX Master definitely feels way heavier and it's hard to game with it. This one doesn't have that kind of weight, but it does feel heavier, especially if you're used to, say, more lighter mouse that have come out more recently, right? If you're looking at, say, like the M-Chose, the Rapoo, the VGN, even if you were to, say, look at the G703 and take out the weight, that one would be slightly lighter than this mouse. I do like it though. The scroll wheel was really, really smooth and I was enjoying using it. I was having a bit of trouble getting used to it in the beginning just because of the weight. But in general, this mouse feels incredible. As you guys saw as well, like the close-ups in terms of like the sliding, and it slides really well, right? Like it grips really, really well. It's not incredibly slidey, like in terms of the mouse itself, like compared to the M-Chose, which had the glass, the fiberglass, and it just slid, right? Like slid super, super cleanly. The Akko's isn't like that. So you get a little bit more grip to it. So if you're someone that is, likes a mouse that can do braking, right? Like, in terms of after a while you flick and you want it to stop nicely, you will get that kind of friction with the Pulse01. And you get the 8K. Though I did find that when I was using the 8K with Apex Legends, there was some frame drops and had a bit of issues. One thing I did not like about this mouse was the DPI button right being here. Because I am one of the hybrid grips type people, sometimes I'm worried that I'm going to click the DPI button right here while I'm holding it. If you are a claw grip, you won't have any issues. But if you are a palm grip person, like completely, as you can see here, you actually might end up, depending on where your bone is here and how it lands up, you might end up pressing the DPI button by accident. If you are more of a hybrid grip like me, you have less to worry about, but it is definitely something that you should be careful of on using the Pulse01. So it does have this nice retro theme, which I do appreciate. And I think it is a nice mouse, right? The software, as you guys saw, it's okay. It's not the most amazing software, but definitely I would say if you are looking for a nice new mouse that isn't so expensive, right? A lot of gaming mouses like from Logitech and like Razer are quite expensive, and you want to save that money, but also get like the 8K and great sensor. I would take a look at this mouse. Of course, I'll have the links in the description for you guys, and please go check out the other videos I got, and I'll catch you guys next time.